So we should talk a little about scams. I do not believe this listing is a scam. I believe this is a bad listing. So how do you spot a scam? What we want to look for is like low seller feedback, because then they haven't got a good reputation. What we want to do is when we've got a seller, we want to click through into that seller and have a look at the actual comments and see what was actually said about that person when they sold it. If there's a lot of bad feedback, try and walk away. This is clearly a good seller. They just did a really bad listing here. What we want to do is make sure the payment methods are what we're happy with. If you can pay with PayPal, you get a lot of protection from eBay. So I now only bid on things that will accept PayPal. Even if I'm doing pickup only, I prefer to pay by PayPal first, because then I know that I'm covered by the PayPal protection and I can get a refund and there's no hassle on the doorstep. I have been scammed before because it was payment by postal order. It was an auction that was simply too good to be true. It was a low price and payment by postal order, which is essentially like posting cash through the post. Now, if I had had a receipt for that and had proof of postage for that, I might have got a refund off eBay. But generally, just don't go anywhere near anything that is pay by check, pay by postal order, and where it's being sent to you, because you probably won't receive it. So sometimes we have to be careful with what we're buying. It's not necessarily a scam, we just get sucked into the wrong description. Here's something like this. I might get sucked in without reading it properly, and I might not notice that the actual Fitbit is not included in there. The photo's quite good. It doesn't say in the title that the Fitbit is not included, but in the description it does. Some people do try and scam us by selling empty boxes, by including the item in the photograph, but then in the description saying the actual item is not included, this is for an empty box. But people might not notice that when they're buying it. So we do have to be careful. Sometimes it's not a deliberate scam, it's just slightly misleading in the way that it's worded. One thing to be careful of are stock photos. When you see stock photos, you don't know what you're getting. You have to be really clear on the description about what is in there and read it really well. Stock photos can sometimes be a mark of a scam, but very often it's a business seller and they don't have time to take individual photos. But if it's a personal seller and it's a used product, you really want to see a photograph, and I tend to veer away if it doesn't have a photograph of the actual item, because stock photographs are a little bit misleading and I don't necessarily like that. Business sellers I will accept that, but personal sellers I probably won't. And what you also find is that some people don't like buying from first-time sellers, because first-time sellers might be scam artists, they haven't got a reputation on there. I'll just click through on this, doesn't mean they're a first-time seller, but I'm just going to have a quick look at this. What we need to do is we need to learn to look at the seller's information and make sure that we are comfortable with the feedback they've got, and if they are a first-time seller, everyone has to sell the first time at least once, right? There's nothing wrong with being a first-time seller. There's nothing wrong with buying from a first-time seller. Make sure you're using PayPal, but you can get a bargain from buying from a first-time seller because very often no one else will. So that's something to look for if you think, is this listing going to sell or not? That might be a useful thing to look at. Look at the seller's history to see what they've sold, how well they've done, things like that. But if you use PayPal, you are protected by eBay PayPal protection, and you can get a refund very easily. Now, the problem for sellers on eBay is that the buying process works more in favor of purchasers, the buyer, than the seller. So if the buyer has any complaints whatsoever and puts in a refund, then that money is going to get taken out of the PayPal without the seller being involved. So unfortunately, if you're a seller on eBay, there's a lot of scam buyers that will complain for no reason, that will say they didn't receive the product. If the seller doesn't send it registered post, whilst they say it's at your risk, it's really at their risk, because if you don't receive it, you can ask for a refund and they haven't got any proof that they sold it. So I know there are people who, when they're buying on eBay, will scam the sellers by doing that. That is something we never want to do, because they can vote on you and give you a bad reputation. And it's not a good situation to be in. But there are people who don't like selling on eBay because of that. As a buyer, we have to read the descriptions accurately. We have to make sure we know what we're getting. We have to pay by PayPal to get the protection. We have to learn to spot scams. If we're in any doubt at all, then just walk away. Be patient, because a good listing will come up. A good listing which has the good title, has a good description, has a good photograph. There will be other reasons why you can get it for cheap, but you don't have to get it. If a deal is too good to be true, just walk away.